Hey guys, welcome back to the Starman and Sheboygan, William Hasmus, and I'm covering my main core work for 23 years, which is what happens to the electrical energy in the human body when it ceases to exist. In the first half of the video, I covered pretty much human beings and some of the things of how human beings and stars are connected, uh, covering the main element, ley lines, a whole bunch of things. Very interesting to listen to. So we'll continue on here. Uh, we're talking about humans and how uh, and stars and how they live and die and are born just together. But another interesting fact is, folks, when you woke up this morning, where were you? You were in your bed, right? You got out of your bed, you went about your whole day, and at the end of the day, where are you? You're back in bed again, where you started. Do you realize what you just did was you completed an orbit, just like an atom, an electron around an atom, or just like a star or a planet does. Okay, a star or a planet orbits, and what we call that is, with a star, we call it a stellar parallax, which is the uh, sun's anomaly. They call it sun anomaly, where it travels in a figure eight that you might have seen a picture of. Uh, but uh, yes, we orbit, human beings orbit just like planets do. And I've done a bigger picture because, I mean, in some people's lifetimes they move, right? I mean, I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Arizona, and I've looked at my own travels. And folks, I have all closed orbits except for one, and that is to return to Phoenix. And what's funny is if I return to Phoenix and I pass away there, what's a phoenix but rising from the ashes? Which brings me to another. I'll get to the ashes after I throw in this one little point. This is number 7. Did you know, or do you know, that most stars are actually double stars? Yes, folks, our star out there, our sun, is actually a double star. And according to our history, the second star is called Nibiru. And it's been coming now for the past 7 years. It's been visible for the past 5 years, yet it never seems to get any closer. Okay? However, Nibiru could be in a state that we might not be able to visibly see it. How about that? That's all I'll say on that. Now, here's an interesting fact, folks. Scientists and astronomers and astrophysics, if there are two stars and there are more than two stars, like say the Pleiades, that are 7 stars, did you know that they are called a family of stars? Yes, folks. So most stars are double stars, and if there's more than two stars, it's a family of stars. And isn't it interesting that most people on Earth are married, and if they have children, they are known as a family? And I just came across it last week. There is actually something called the family constellation therapy. I didn't really get a chance to look into it, but it's where you interact as other members of your family to help other members of the family understand what you look like from the outside. I believe that might be what it is. But I found that interesting that there's something called family constellation therapy. So, excuse me. To get back to the ashes. Now, in the first video, I mentioned that a star and a human being are carbon. A star or a sun is hydrogen and helium creating proton, and protons smashing into each other, making ashes or carbon. Okay. Now, isn't it interesting that when we die, at the funeral, the minister says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Is that just a coincidence that they say that? That, you know, stars are ashes and dust burning on itself, and here we're being told when we die, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And then if you think about the phoenix thing, the phoenix rises from the ashes, right? And is born again. Okay? This is just simple information that's out there that anybody can look up. And if you just connect the dots, that's all I've done, folks, is I've just connected the dots of information from here to here to here to here. Okay? So what I'm doing is I'm looking down on my list and I'm crossing off what I've already talked about so then I don't make a mistake and repeat myself. So we're up to carbon and ashes and dust to dust. Now, interestingly, one day down in Florida, I had Jehovah's Witnesses walk up to my door and try to talk to me. And one of them said, "Did you know that there's three heavens?" And I said, and folks, I've read the complete Bible except for 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Those are the only books I haven't read because I really don't need to know the lineages of the kings and such. But other than that, I've read the complete Bible. Swear on it. And I asked him, rather than, being rude and telling him go away, I was interested. I said, well, yeah, I'd be interested to learn that. And he showed me in the Bible that there are three different heavens. And did you know, folks, that when you die, you do not go to the same heaven that God is in? You don't. There's three heavens, and these are the three heavens that was shown to me in the Bible. Again, don't know whether it's correct or not, but just sharing the information and putting it together. The first heaven is where God exists, and where I guess we'll never see He is. The second heaven is the one we go to when we die. The third one is right above our heads that we look at every night. Okay? One of the things that I covered in the first video is star power, the conscious and the subconscious, eternal energy, dreaming and daydreaming, and lucid dreaming. How you can go within these worlds and travel. There's three worlds that we can go to, folks. When you're awake and you're conscious, you can go out to daydreaming, right? You can think about, I love to think about the mountains and the Superstition Mountains. Looking at the Superstition Mountains from down below is just so beautiful. It's just a big mesa going up, And another thing that I looked at when I was in school, there was a clip outside my school window that they would paint the years, graduation years on. It was about a maybe 80-foot cliff, 100-foot cliff. And I would always wonder what was at the top of it. I would just sit in my class and I would daydream. Now, when you go to sleep, after 2 hours of REM sleep, you go into a dream state. And it's very short. And during an 8-hour sleep, you go through the REM cycle about 6 times, I believe. And each time you complete a REM cycle, your dream pattern gets longer and longer and longer. But there's something, and I need to put his name on the list. His name is Dr. Stephen LaBerge. He's studied what's called lucid dreaming, where you can actually control your dream while you're dreaming. It's only happened to me once, and it's quite interesting. It's scary because I flew in my dream, and the higher I got up, the more scared I got. So I took myself back down. I was by some pine trees in snow out in a snowstorm, like in the winter. It was overcast, and I managed to start flying, and it was scary, but it was possible. And Stephen LaBerge is quite interesting to look up, but uh, I've been practicing, or I've been trying to do lucid dreaming and find out who or what controls the dream world. Okay, because there's one thing that one of the things that I don't even have time to talk about on this list is paranormal research and ghosts and such. That's part of my research as well. But when you lucid dream, uh, you can be shown things, but you'll never see a book. If you think about it, folks, you have never opened a book and read in a dream, and you've never been shown anything in a dream, nor have you talked to anybody that I know of. And if you have talked to somebody in a dream, then you would be lucid dreaming, and you probably woke up shortly thereafter. So in any case, I want to get back to this information here, that there's three heavens. Okay, like I said, there's the one that God lives in, the one that one where we go when we die, and then there's the one above our heads. Now, interestingly, my information correlates that when we die, we go from this heaven to that heaven. Okay, and quite honestly, we never actually leave that heaven, because that's where our star point eternal energy exists. How we exist here is through our star there, with our families connected. Now, three heavens, okay? Uh, I'm going to do this backwards. I should have done something first before the three heavens, but I missed it. But hell is a hot place, okay? We always hear about hell being a hot place. Oh, there's so much fire, so much fire. All right, well, a sun is fire burning on itself. Now, I'm going to throw in here that as an astronomer for 23 years, one thing, and this flat earth stuff, one thing that is hard for me to get past is that in order to put out a fire here on earth, you want to cut off all the oxygen to it, right? You want to take away the oxygen from the fire, and the fire will immediately go out. However, the powers that be want us to believe that when you put a fire out in space, which is a complete void or vacuum, there is no oxygen, folks, but there's a burning star. You got to question that, folks. Think about it, okay? Now, if hell is a hot place, and when we die, we return to our star, I assume that the way that you would wind up in hell is depending on how you treated people here, how you handled your existence while you were here consciously. Were you good-natured? Were you a light bringer? Or were you an evildoer? Because that's what it comes down to. Those are your true choices on earth: to be truthful, moral, and honest, and a light bringer, or an evildoer and causing harm and chaos to the world. Okay? If you cause chaos and bring hate to the world, you might wind up in hell. Now, there is something in the heavens that you can see through a telescope, and one that's very prominent is in the constellation Hercules, and is up presently, straight up almost. When the sun goes down, it'll be about here in the northwest at about 80 degrees, 70 degrees, and it's called Hercules, the constellation of Hercules, and I believe it's either M8 or M10 is in there. M5, could be M5, could be M5. It's hard for me to remember all where the nebula. Obviously, I remember where M42 and 43 are. That's Orion, but other than that, it's hard. Like M5, 6, and 7 are actually down in between the tail of Scorpio and Aquarius in the south. So it's probably like M10 or M11 up there. But a globular cluster of stars is a compact area in space with a lot of stars close together. And I would think when you put a lot of stars close together, you're going to generate a lot of heat. Okay? Now, apparently you can feel that heat because you have this in the Bible, the smashing and gnashing of teeth, and you can hear the pains. And if you do the research, the deepest hole that's been dug on Earth is only 13 miles, folks. Okay? And if you think about it, we're supposedly on a planet that's over 24,000 miles wide, okay? And they only went 13 miles down. That's not a lot. But apparently there's a hole in Russia that they went down, and the miners stopped because you can actually hear the souls screaming in pain and the voices and the gnashing of teeth and such. Now, I believe that when you do die and you return to your star, you're able to communicate with your family because you're within a family of stars, which I would think would be a constellation, that you can communicate, but telepathically. You're not actually speaking, but you're communicating telepathically with your mind. And that's possibly how you feel in hell with all the heat around you. You can express that through your telepathy, and somehow it comes out to be white noise, basically. And white noise is just chaos or entropy of all these frequencies being put together. Okay? So, and just like with clouds, when you look at a cloud and you go, oh, that looks like a lion or that looks like a cow or a rabbit, you do the same thing when you hear all these frequencies and this white noise. Your brain is trying to make sense out of it. And they even use something called the spirit box in ghost hunting, where it scans all the frequencies, and then every once in a while it'll stop and you'll hear a radio station or you'll hear a broadcast, and it's quite interesting. But in any case, hell is a hot place, which I would think would be a globular cluster of stars. Where so when you die, if you don't treat people good on this planet and you don't do the right thing, and you be an evildoer as opposed to a light bringer, you'll probably go to hell rather than back to your star point of energy and with your family. And maybe after an amount of time, you get another chance of coming back here and learning the lessons that you should have learned the first time, so this time you can be a light bringer rather than an evildoer. So let's move on. The one point I wanted to do before the three heavens and hell that's a hot place is, did you know that there's over 50 Bible verses where God compares human beings to stars? The only one that I can really remember is in the Old Testament. He says that you are as mighty and in number as the stars. Because if you notice, folks, another thing I'll throw in here real quick is, have you ever noticed that there's as many stars out there as there are people on Earth? There's billions and billions of stars out there, and there's billions of people on Earth. And the energy has to come from somewhere. And if it's a closed system where energy cannot be destroyed nor created, it just is in a constant equilibrium like a big sun, then this is how I would have to think. Now, the one thing I don't need to throw in here that I'm going to anyways is to get back to stars living, breathing, and stars being born, living, and dying. Now, one of the things that started me off on my quest was one of the Hubble's very first pictures, which was of M16, or the Eagle Nebula, which I believe is M7, the Messier object number 7. Charles Messier was an astronomer in France. In any case, M7 is located in Serpens, which is about the middle of the, when you look up, it's about in the middle of the Earth here. And it's not a very easy constellation to see, and it's made up of 3 sections, and it's pretty huge because it contains a sword and a hunter, I believe. But in any case, M16 you might know as the name of Pillars of Creation. It was a picture of 3 clouds, and if you go on the PPF, you'll find it. On my Planetary Peace Foundation, on my website, you'll find a picture of it. But it's 3 big clouds, and what it is it's a nebula. And what scientists and astronomers are claiming is that what it's doing is breeding new stars. And when you look at it, it's just magnificent. It's just, you can't even imagine the size of it because it's light years. It's like 6 light years long, folks. It's just amazingly big, according to them, according to the powers that be. Okay, it might be very small. We're just seeing it not correctly because we're looking through a lens, right, through the ozone layer. So you got to take that into account, okay? So, in any case, if you look at the bottom of this nebula, you'll see little red and white dots inside it, and those have been deemed eggs, globular something. I don't remember what they're called, but they're breeding new stars. Now, this is what kicked off, along with me seeing Jupiter going through Scorpio, when I saw in 1995, I believe it was like in December of 1995, that the picture, and it's on Astronomy Picture of the Day, if you look it up, Pillars of Creation, just look in the search. But the one thing that I noticed right off the bat is that it's 3 clouds, and God claims to be the Trinity. Okay? Again, this is philosophy, just putting things together and my thoughts together and trying to connect the dots. Now, the first cloud on the left in the picture looks like it has a dog face, like a Doberman Pinscher face, okay? And it's very bright in the face. And if you look, you can actually see this shoulder line coming down and the back shoulder of it back here, and it's actually sitting, crouching like this, with its back to you, kind of like this, okay? And mind you, this is in an abstract way, okay? And abstract means like I'm looking in the clouds to make out a rabbit. So this is what my mind's put together. Now what's interesting is that it has almost like a human body with a dog face. Now where have we seen that? Where have we seen a dog face human body? Well, if you look back in the Egyptian hieroglyphics, you'll come across a god called Anubis. And Anubis was a human with a dog face that was the bringer of life and death. And when you died, he would measure your soul using feathers. And depending on whether you passed or not, he would cross the river Styx with your spirit or your energy or whatever. Again, this is my thoughts, my theories, okay? So please don't let me persuade you, but you look for yourself and you put the dots together for yourself and see if what I'm telling you isn't true. Now, the next cloud, the middle cloud, is quite interesting as much as the first cloud. One, for the fact that it sits on the right side of the larger cloud. And in the Bible, it says that Jesus sits on the right hand of God, right? Just putting it together. Now, in a very, very abstract way, and if you look, the face of the center cloud is very, very bright. And if you remember, in the Bible, it says that no man can look into the face of God because it's too bright. But if you look at this middle cloud in an abstract way, you can actually see long hair and a robe. How interesting. Now, the third cloud is kind of like the odd man out. Even astronomers have cast it out as being an anomaly in the nebula. And they've deemed it called the boot. And this shape you really can't make out. You really don't know what it is. But it says in the Bible that no man knows what the Holy Spirit looks like. Okay? Now, if this nebula is breeding new stars, what it's doing is it's creating new energy, but it's not creating new energy. It's taking the dust and the ashes from the burned stars, from the brown dwarfs, from the smashing and colliding of meteors, and swirling them together. And stars are basically items that haven't developed what's called protoplanetary disks, or like the rings of Saturn. The rings of Saturn are kind of protoplanetary disks where they should have been within the formation of the full planet creation, but didn't have the spin, didn't have enough energy to quite put all of it in there. Okay? So, M16 and the Eagle Nebula is a quite interesting object and one of the biggest supporters for my case of when we die, we return to our stars. Okay? And I'm sorry, I got to stop saying okay over and over again. I realize that I'm doing that. So now we're down to the last three things, and they're really easy. We're going to go into music. Universe, one song. I'm saying that when we die, we return to our star. Bad Company, you know, Running with the Pack, Bad Company. Don't you know that you're a shooting star? Now, I have seen Bad Company live. I've met a few of the members from Bad Company, and in fact, I have one of their autographs. But yeah, I've never talked to them about it, and they wrote theirs in 1974. I didn't come across mine until 1995. But Bad Company's trying to tell me, don't you know you're a shooting star? Stevie Wonder, supposedly a blind man, who's never seen the stars, never read a Bible, wrote a song called Master Blaster. I believe it's off the album Inner Visions. When you're moving in the positive, your destination is the brightest star. Now listen closely to what I say here. When you're moving in the positive, your destination is the brightest star. I've never met Stevie Wonder. He wrote it back in 74 as well. 73, 74, maybe 72. Okay? Was he trying to tell us something? But isn't it quite interesting? Two bands, one saying you're a shooting star, one saying, that uh, what I just said. You have the Kings with Celluloid Heroes. You can see all the stars walking down Hollywood Boulevard. People who shine brightly on this planet are called stars, right? In Hollywood. And when we recognize their talent, we thank them by giving them a star on Hollywood Boulevard. Why? Why is that? Isn't that interesting? So music and Hollywood are both telling us that when we die, we return to our star. Now, this one's going to be a little longer than the second one, and if I stop here, I only have a couple more to go through, so that if I do a third video, it's only going to be like 10 minutes long, so I might as well just finish it here. The next thing I want to talk about is NDEs, or near-death experiences. When people die, a heavy percentage of them say, I saw a bright light and they had a push feeling, like they were being pushed down a tunnel, like a ley line. To give you an example of a ley line and where one lies, Sedona out in Arizona lays on a ley line. And it's no secret that there's something magical in Sedona. Another ley line that's very famous is Mount Fuji in Japan. And I'm a Buddhist, folks. And the temple that I belong to is about 20, 30 miles from the foot of Mount Fuji. But there's a picture of my temple, the Goshikai, Taiseki in Japan, right at the foot of Mount Fuji. Very beautiful thing. And a ley line is basically where the electromagnetic fields connect. And it has something to do with granite as well and limestone. Now, NDEs claim that A, they say a bright light, and two, they got a push feeling like going through a tunnel. Like if you've ever seen the beginning of Doctor Who does that. It flies through a tunnel. So again, see, TV's telling us, and showing us, but we're not picking it up for some reason. Now, the one thing that I wanted to cover at the very beginning with human beings, and I didn't, and the electromagnetic fields, but comes in quite handy here, is that did you know that the human body, when we exhale negative 37 millivolts of electricity. Okay? We actually breathe electric. Isn't that interesting? What's more interesting is that it's negative energy. The earth is positive energy. Plants are positive energy. So let's take a little side trip into biology and plants and botany and the human being, and we'll come back to NDEs and stars and the ley lines. I'll bring it right around for you. If we're negative energy and the earth is positive energy, we don't need an earth spinning at 1,200 miles to keep us on here. I personally do not believe in gravity. I believe that we are held to the earth using electromagnetism. That is the more logical principle. In any case, plants are positive energy. We are negative energy. Now let's look at botany. If plants are positive energy and the earth is positive energy, doesn't it make sense why plants grow away from the earth? They grow up, straight up, right? Away from the earth. Now, one thing that I need to put in here is there was a gentleman called Michael Faraday. And one of his principles is called the Faraday's Law, which is the moment in time when polarity changes from negative to positive, positive to negative. Now, through my research, I have come to find out that when you pass away, when animals pass away, when plants pass away, Faraday's law takes place and your polarity changes. Now, if a plant is positive and the earth is positive, and we clearly see with our eyes that the plant grows away from the earth, when the plant dies and Faraday's law takes place and the plant becomes negative energy, what happens to the plant? It withers back to the earth, right? The earth attracts it back to itself. And what it's doing is it's using that plant to create fossils and layers to keep living and existing. Humans are positive energy. Or, I'm sorry, humans are negative energy. And the earth is positive energy. So we're attracted to it. When we pass away, Faraday's law takes place and our polarity changes from negative to positive, and we get repelled away from the earth. Didn't I just say that near-death experience people claim to be pushed away from the earth and saw a tunneling? 3/4 of an ounce of energy is discharged when we pass away, which I mentioned in the first half of the video. This energy gets pushed along these ley lines, these magnetic ley lines of the earth and the universe. And somehow we remember to go back to our star. Now, I was going to tell you the way that we remember how we get out of the left or right side of bed in the morning, how we remember how to get to work. I messed up. See, I make mistakes, but I remembered that I made the mistake, and I'm going to clarify it now. And I even mentioned it, that we have a magnet in our brain, a compass in our brain, that we use just like the whales do, just like pigeons do, to find our way around. And it's called I haven't said it in a while, nanomagnetic something. Nanomagnetic something. I have a picture of it on the Planetary Peace Foundation. And it's just a small, it looks like a jumping bean almost. That's what it reminds me of. And I bet if you were to put an electric energy next to it, it would probably bounce like a bean. But it's just a little tiny thing, a little circle that's located up in your brain. And it's it's like a magnetosphere, like what's on the outside of the earth protecting us. Nanomagnetic, I'm sorry, it's not coming to me. But folks, that's how we remember to get to where we are and what we do and how we use our everyday existence. So, guess what, folks? You made it to the summary. You made it through both videos. Congratulations. And we've done it in 40 minutes on this video. Again, I want to thank you for listening. I want you to think about what I've said and how I've said it and how I've put the things together. And it's no secret. Now, quite honestly, I wanted to go for a Nobel Peace Prize. I thought I made a breakthrough in knowledge. But folks, guess what? I haven't. I'm not some miracle man. I didn't come up. I'm not like the only man that thinks this way. Okay, the powers that be don't want us to know of our existence and our energy and our power, and they're trying to subvert the power. And they've already done it by closing our pineal gland, our third eye, which helps us to see through all the bullshit of what's going on Earth. But folks, I hope you found this body of work interesting. I've covered everything from human beings and how they interact with the outside world and with chemicals and stars and how they're in existence and how they've interacted. And quite frankly, I don't think I could do any better of a job. I hope you've enjoyed this two-part video series, and I hope to do more. And I will now listen to the video and listen to myself and probably pick up mistakes that I've made which I didn't hear as I said them. But realize this is just a temporary existence, folks. When we die, we don't die. We simply return back to our star, okay? And we're with our families, we're at peace, and maybe we can interact with other people. And a good way to think about what it's going to be like after you die is, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but in school, when I used to fall asleep in class, you know, I used to put my head down on my hands like this, and as I was falling asleep, I kind of started hearing a muttering sound. Whereas rather than just hearing my teacher's voice, I would hear all these voices like I'm in a mall. Okay? If you've ever been, you know, think about being in a mall and everybody talking and you hear what is deemed white noise, where it's just a low mutter and you really can't make out one conversation. I believe that's what it's like when we pass away and we return to our star. And one of the reasons I believe that is because, sadly, one of the interactions I had with police officers down in Florida, they put me in a chokehold, folks, and they nearly killed me. And that's what happened to me. As I was slowly passing out, I started hearing, I didn't hear the officers' voices, but I heard like a muttering of voices. And again, if you research near-death experiences, that's another confession. Another thing that they say is that they couldn't pick out, but family was waiting for them when they passed away. They could see and they would recognize people. All right. So, if you want to learn more on this subject, again, visit the Planetary Peace Foundation. The web link is on the channel here on YouTube and here on BitChute. And I want to thank you very, very much for listening, because realize this is 23 years worth of work. And if you noticed, I really didn't stutter much. I did forget a few things because there's a lot to remember. But realize my heart's behind what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And I want to pass this information on to you. And the reason I stopped going for a Nobel Peace Prize was once they gave the Nobel Peace Prize to Al Gore for lying, I realized that they already have this information and that they don't want you to have it. So I don't think that's fair, and I decided to bring it to you. And just for that, no, I am shadow banned across social media. I'm shadow banned right here on YouTube. I'm probably shadow banned on BitChute because they don't want this information getting out. They don't like what I'm saying and what I'm doing. So all I ask, folks, is don't believe anything I say. I always say this. Don't believe anything I say, but research for yourself what I say, so then you find out that I've told you the truth. And if you find out that one of the facts that I've told you is truthful, then more than likely everything else I've told you is truthful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I love questions, and know that I said at the beginning of this video that the one thing I do know is that I don't know. I can only go by what I've read, what I've heard, and what I've seen. We're all being fed information, folks. The powers that be are holding on to secrets that we need to know. It's no secret, and they are oppressing us in a big, big way. And it's only through people like me and you that have an open heart and an open mind to want to share this information. Because, folks, 23 years of knowledge is worthless if I can't share it with anybody. But then I want you to share this and show it to a neighbor. Invite your friends over for a party on Saturday. Smoke a joint, drink a couple beers, and listen to what I have to say. And then discuss it amongst yourselves. And find out what your general consensus is within your group or your family of stars. Lastly, I want to address the camera problem. Currently, I don't have a phone, so I'm using a web camera, which apparently isn't that great. I'm not going to ask for donations, but if you like what you've heard here and you've learned something and you want to make a donation, it's Freak, P-H-R-E-A-K, Mushroom on Cash App, and I believe Galactic Rabbit 28 on Venmo, and you can pass me $1 there. Or what I like to do for fun is I like to compose music. I don't play kill 'em games. I don't play Destiny or where you're shooting and collecting guns. But like I said at the beginning, I like to golf. I like to really golf. I like to look at the stars and the heavens. I like to look at nature and study nature. I like to listen to people. Listening is as good as speaking. But all this information was brought to you with no hate, no deceit. I am not forcing you to believe what I say. I'm asking you to research for yourself and learn for yourself and educate for yourself like I did, and gain the power that I have. I'm at peace, folks. I'm joyful. I'm happy. When I go out, I sing, despite everything that's going on. But all I'll ask from my listeners is that you realize that everything is a division tags game meant to start an argument between you and someone else. One believes in abortion, one doesn't believe in abortion. One believes when we die we become stars, other people believe when we die we go to the kingdom of God. We all have our own beliefs. But folks, guess what? We all have hearts and minds and brains. And that's where we need to come to as a whole. And we really need to realize that there is a group of people controlling this planet that are oppressing us and oppressing our history and changing our history and actually indoctrinating generations 2 years down the road, so that this information that I just gave you won't even be in existence. It'll be laughed at. This will be a joke. Either that, or I'll be vindicated, and our technology and where we are has surpassed us, and we're now into the technical AI generated world. So please, folks, love thy neighbor. Do something nice for a stranger. Sing when you go out. Don't let the powers that be control your world. You take a hold of it, like I did when I saw Jupiter going through Scorpio. I wanted to know what it was. And you know what? I wound up going back to college and going from homelessness to having 3 degrees and all this information. And again, If I don't share it, it's not worth a dime to me. I bring this to you with love and peace. Starman and Sheboygan signing out. You all have a great day, and I hope you have a beautiful summer. By the way, I did this video on June 6th in 2023. The numbers for that day are 6, 6, and 7, 2, 2, and 3. The 6th month, the 6th day, and 7 in the year, which is a double unknown, godlike, translated in numerology, or one above Satan. I'm surprised nothing major happened today, but the day's not over yet. You have a great day. Check out some of my other videos and spread the word. Freak Mushroom, Starman in Sarasota, Planetary Peace Foundation. Oh, and I'm sorry, take a listen to my music on Spotify. Got 6 albums, and working every day to come out with a 6th one because I don't play killing games. Sorry about that. You have a great day. I'm leaving you with a smile. Stop back often.